Hey, let's start the show.
For Thursday, October 29th, 2020. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com.
That's my favorite one since the metal one, by far. I feel like I'm a local broadcast news team from the early 1980s.
It's one we've used before. So we are officially now caught up with the submissions for intro music out there. Thank you. We got like 24 of them. But I looked through the back catalog, and if I missed one of yours, I apologize. Feel free to send it back again. I'll bump it to the top. But after listening to a couple, I really like that one. I'm hesitant to say it's going to be our new.
Oh no,
theme music.
That's not the best one. It's up there. It's up there.
It is up there.
Yeah.
I think we'll have to take it offline and maybe do a compilation, maybe discuss amongst ourselves our top 5, because I don't want to have to play. I don't think you want to necessarily have to listen to all 24, 25 or so, but maybe we'll pick our top 5. A metal one, I'm pretty sure will be included, and we'll play those before the end of the year. So you have till before our last episode, our post-Christmas episode, before we're going to do an end-of-year listen back of all the top user-submitted intro music. And we'll then have a nice discussion and debate over what will win as the new intro piece. How are y'all doing? We have both of you on this week, Jeremy Williams and Kishore Hari.
Doing great. Really glad to be here.
I'm doing okay, like as okay as this year can allow people to be okay. Like normally this is one of my favorite weeks of the year, like the run up to Halloween, like the anticipation, the scramble to make a last minute costume. My kid is in the sweet spot. He's 9 years old. So trick-or-treating, this is like prime trick-or-treating. Everything is just a little bit different, but I've been experimenting with some fun things, including candy delivery devices from a distance. So I was inspired by what I saw online, where people were using different bits of PVC and sometimes air pressure in behind that PVC to deliver candy with some force from a distance to unsuspecting children out front. And I'm going to see if I can come up with something together. Mine's going to be more gravity assisted than air powered.
Yeah.
I admire your dedication to the holiday, but I do question whether or not it's a good idea, because the governor has said there is no trick-or-treating. So if people do show up and ring the doorbell, do you want to reward them?
Look, you are trying to take away my freedoms here, sir. My freedoms to shoot candy at unsuspecting children as they walk up a dimly lit street in San Francisco. I deserve that right. I have sacrificed so much of the last 6 months. All I really want to do is toss candy at kids. You can at least let me have this.
As long as you put it on YouTube, then we'll call it even.
And there are plenty of activities you can do at home. I think, the San Francisco website, the city website has a list of recommended activities, including turn your living room into a haunted house. You can do some, Easter egg style, hide the candy in your house, in your backyard if you have one. Yeah, virtual costume parties. Those are all possible. I think those are still fun.
Yeah, generally speaking, the guidance across the country is be outside, be in small groups, limit how close you are in those groups, integrate the mask into your costume. Like, this is a unbelievable opportunity. Like, if we're having to wear masks, like, pull it into your costume. Like, everyone is going to be Mortal Kombat characters this year. Like, the Sub-Zero is going to make like a huge comeback this year. So I just think there's opportunities in Halloween to do this really well. Outside, small groups, like limit, like sort of, the handling of similar materials. So, we're setting up a table where candy, like those individual candies laid out that people can grab and go if they come out. And we're turning our garage into like a mini, a small kind of haunted house kind of esque thing that we're going to hang out in and just chill.
You guys, as parents of children who are of trick-or-treating age, do they enjoy the actual act of trick-or-treating, or do they just want the goods, the candy at the end? Like, would they be satisfied if you just got a big pre-filled thing of candy and had them, find some way to get that and be okay with that?
It's like, you got to ask yourself, do you enjoy the work, or do you just want the money? The kids are kind of the same way when it comes to trick-or-treating.
It's work.
It can be a bit of work, and if they can just have the money, I think they're going to be all right. Like when we told the kids there'd be no trick-or-treating, the 10-year-old said, just get me a bag of candy and it'll be okay. So that's what we've accomplished that, and we will be hiding it around the house, just as you suggested.
Look,
Nice.
Everyone wants the money, but it's that much sweeter when you earn it.
Yeah, no doubt. Some people have jobs like us that are actually enjoyable, and we look forward to work, but that's not universal.
And they can still dress up. There's no reason the dressing up can't happen if that's something they enjoy. It's really the going from door to door and the social interaction with some strangers or neighbors of getting the candy. There's also the appeal of the mystery of it. The kind of the hunt of which house is going to have the best candy. Right. That, I think, is part of the satisfactions. I don't know how you can replicate that.
That's determined in our household. It's whichever house hands out Kit Kats or is the house that has the best candy. Period.
Which variety?
It doesn't. It doesn't matter. It's overall volume and surface area of Kit Kat that matters, as opposed to style of Kit Kat.
Very good. I'm going to try the new cookies and cream Twix this is my year's big Halloween splurge, because I love Twix and I love cookies and cream anything, and I saw an ad for it and I'm like, oh, I'm curious. So
it's intro segments like this that lead to us getting to the VR minute and you saying we don't have any time.
Okay, well, why don't we front load some of this stuff? We're not going to have a top story this week. There's so much to catch up on because it has been a couple weeks since you've both been on the podcast. Last week was also very exciting. And not only did we talk about the Apple event and Apple pre-orders, Jeremy, you weren't on to talk about the pre-order experience and even receiving your new iPhones. It's something that I know you've been looking very forward to because you have not upgraded since the iPhone 10. You previously had almost every single iPhone, and then you skipped 2 years.
Yeah.
And that delayed gratification, getting the new iPhone 12 Pro, Pacific Blue, I presume.
That's right.
How's that working out for you?
It's fine. The 10, honestly, I probably could have gone another year. Like, that was a good year to buy. Like, the performance is still pretty snappy. Now, having said that, you try the new phone and you realize, okay, the new phones are snappier, they're faster. But in terms of like the everyday usage, like there's no killer feature that I'm loving. Like the new camera is what it's all about for me, because I didn't see the camera last year that you got, the triple lens amazingness, the super wide angle lens option, the night vision now, which is just phenomenal. But that's stuff that I'm using rarely. And, I appreciate it. I'm glad I have it. But we are definitely past the point of like diminishing returns with phones. And I don't expect to get a new phone next year, maybe not the year after. They got to start introducing some really interesting features if that's going to be the case.
Especially since this year, the big, like the S feature, and even though it's not an S phone, it kind of is, because they went from 11 to 12. There was no 11S. This is an S year. It's not like the second iPhone they came out with, the 3G, right? Where the cellular capability jumping from like one type of network connectivity to now Wi-Fi 6 and also 5G. 5G was the big thing. That's why they had so many minutes of the keynote dedicated to 5G. And that's such a future-proof feature when I think about, even though Android phone manufacturers have been pushing 5G for a long time. On iOS, finally we have 5G. But for the most of the country, that finally doesn't feel like it's important because of the differing 5G, sub 6 gigahertz spectrum distribution between the carriers here, and even on the millimeter wave stuff, that's so limited. You had all these reviewers saying that they couldn't find places to actually tap in to that up to 10 gigabit per second speed. On the 12 Pro here in San Francisco, you would assume that in San Francisco you get really good coverage. On Verizon, I'm only getting that. I mean, I'm only paying for the 5G, and it's varied between the standard 5G, and it's varying between like 80 megabits per second to up to 200 megabits per second, which is faster than LTE. Granted, but it's very limited locations. Most of the time, it's defaulting back to LTE.
Have you tried the LiDAR scanner yet?
Yeah, that's the other thing where there aren't applications that take advantage of. There are a few like AR apps because the LiDAR scanner was on iPad apps earlier because the previous iPad Pro got that as a feature. Now it's on the phone. It's supposed to give you better portrait mode depth sensing in low light when they can't use the stereo cameras. And portrait mode, I still think, is kind of incrementally improved. There are things I don't understand why they have like the high key mono or the high key isolate. Those features still suck. And in good daylight, it's not any better that I can tell from the previous year's portrait modes. So some of the apps are cool, measuring someone's height or copying, photocopying a 3D object, but they work to various degrees of success. But we expect over the next year to see many, many more applications take advantage of that LiDAR sensor.
I did a scan of my living room using an app called Polycam. And it worked really well. You get like blue triangles everywhere and you fill it in with colorful triangles. And then you can rotate and zoom and move around in your space. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's nice. What I was really hoping for was the resolution to be high enough to 3D print things. And I don't know if that's going to be the case. They're really low poly things. It generally wants to scan large areas, not small things.
Near field. I mean, it's room mapping, right? This is, if we look at how Magic Leap and HoloLens did their room mapping, they use camera systems, and also to some extent the Quest stuff, the inside-out tracking stuff. Use their SLAM is computer vision based, and here it's structured light, so it's taking dots and IR blasts, much like connected, right? As opposed to stereo images overlap. So, the depth map technology is going to be essential, and it makes sense that the spread of the IR dots is made more for the room mapping than it is kind of even the FaceTime or the Face ID stuff that the front-facing structured light stuff uses. Right. The phone delivered no problem. One of the things I was curious about was like how would the fulfillment happen with people not going to stores? But I think their UPS online ordering was real smooth. I don't know how that speaks to man, but it's very simple to order the Pro. I think a lot of people may be waiting for the Max because that's a better camera system, or maybe the Mini because that's the real novel new form factor. But it didn't seem like they were in short supply of either the 12s or the 12 Pros. And the reviews have since said the 12 it feels like it's not a handicap phone as the previous standard 11 or the 10R was, where it feels way more full featured than the Pro. Kishore's taking 1 minute. We're gonna talk about what's gonna happen. Kishore has received a delivery. The other thing with this is how pricing is going to work. Like 5G is a reason for carriers to charge you more, and we remember the transition from 3G to LTE. Your unlimited plans, some of them got grandfathered into LTE, and here it became clear that for Verizon, for example, a lot of people who had LTE did not automatically get bumped up to 5G unless they sign up for a new plan, like you.
Well, yeah, but I'm on AT&T. Same thing though, and I was surprised because I just switched. Like I had the original AT&T iPhone plan that was unlimited data, right? And then they canceled that plan, but I was grandfathered in. A couple years ago, I wanted to have a hotspot, so I needed to change my plan, and I did. And I thought that was the new hotness. Like I thought that was the new plan and like everything would be fine. No, I had to upgrade again because they've completely changed their structure at AT&T. Now, if you have a family plan, like everybody has their own plan now, and it's like you pick and choose that way.
Yep.
It didn't matter. It didn't change my pricing at all. In fact, I'm now saving a little bit of money, but I don't get rollover data. Like that's the big thing.
Yeah.
But it was just frustrating because I wasn't getting 5G. And it was like, why not? And nobody, like it wasn't easily Googleable. And I called them and they had to put me on hold for 10 minutes while they figured it out. But, just frustrating. Like that should be a simple thing. I should get a message come up on my phone saying, if you want to enable 5G, change your plan.
That's right. It should the phone, the software should know what carrier you're on. It should tell you, especially on Verizon, where they're doing this half measure, where if you're on an unlimited plan, the basic 5G, sub gigahertz 5G is built in, but you have the same data caps. It's quote unquote unlimited, but you're capped at 22 gigs, that does not go a long way if you're downloading at 200 megabits per second and streaming stuff. But you're streaming. My streaming is capped at 720, so it doesn't even matter. Like if you want the better streaming, that's an upcharge. They actually throttle you. I mean, this is
wait a minute. How do they know what resolution you're streaming?
Because they're tapped into the back ends for how like Google, YouTube, and other services and Netflix, they all go through their pipes, and so they cap you through those services. It's a really shitty way. This is why net neutrality is so important. But even though I'm in an unlimited plan, my streaming is capped at 720. And they throttle after 22 gigs so that you can do add-ons. And if I want like the best 5G that they have, gigabit speed downloads, that's another $10 per month. And it's all, if it's confusing to me, I can't imagine how confusing it is for the people who are just buying their iPhone 12s, who watched the Apple event and said, ooh, 5G, ooh, and not getting it, or maybe think they have it and don't have it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not great. Very eventful last week. I had a very sick child. It was it was unhappy times. But the happy times came around on Friday when we announced that we're having another child. And as we were waiting for the new phones to arrive, I posted a picture on Reddit and got 115,000 upvotes.
I was gonna set up this whole story by saying that my son put a picture of his LED setup on Reddit and got 5,000 upvotes last week, and
It's a pretty good setup.
He was over the moon about it, and I told you about it, and then I was gonna say, not to be one-upped, you conceived a child, made a birth announcement or a baby announcement, posted it to Reddit, and got 100,000 upvotes. I mean, to your credit, Norm, that image that you did is one of your best works that you've ever done.
Whoa. I feel like there's shade in there.
No, it's really, really good. And I haven't even seen the movie. Do you want to describe it?
I'll describe it. So we tried to come up with a novel announcement about our upcoming baby we're having next spring. We're going to do a picture posted, on social media. And it was one of those things that we're still cool, even though we're parents, even though we have a 2-year-old, we try to convince ourselves that we're still relevant, that we can have some social media savvy.
You're Reddit famous.
And the first time when we announced Avery's birth, or Avery's impending birth, we did a photo with a Jason Freeney cutaway, or a Lego figurine, a sculpture that was like a Lego fetus that we held, and it was like a nice little picture. And we want to go something beyond, and it was one of those things we just sat there and what's a good idea? What's a good idea? We're not going to burn down the state. We don't want to do any of these big eventful gender reveals. Think, and then light bulb. What about the movie Parasite? And doing something tongue in cheek and recreating that poster. And we have a backyard that we renovated over the summer. Can we somehow take the picture to evoke that movie poster? And we did a test photo shoot. So we had the idea a month ago, and after coming back from Nashville, I spent an afternoon while baby was asleep. All this had to be done basically while the baby was napping, to do a test shoot in the back. Bought some props and figured that, okay, with this tripod, with this remote camera shutter, if you look at the picture, I'm holding my phone because I'm actually using a remote shutter on the phone to take the picture, right? There's no, we didn't have anyone else to help. We're in isolation, right? We're in lockdown. No one's going to be pressing the shutter button on the camera. So it was a lot of how do we take this ourselves and then also get everything in place? And so it ended up, we did an hour-long photo shoot, took about 50 pictures, and then luckily we had everything we needed, and the shadows of the day hadn't changed enough where I could bring it into Lightroom, color grade it all to match, and then export full resolution to Photoshop, and then composite for the best 4 images with the 4 key elements, me, Danica, our dog Ripley, Avery in the background, and then put it all together. Found the right type. It's Gotham. If you want to know what the font is, the typeface is, it's Gotham, bold, and then the word Parasite actually you can't just like clip that out of a low res movie poster you find on Amazon. So I found a PDF of a press release for the film.
Wow.
And the PDF had embedded a high resolution logo that I then could extract, clip out, invert the colors, and then superimpose. So
Very
it was a little
nice.
bit of graphic design work, but
Well done.
What were the?
I also have an announcement.
Oh yes. How about
are we getting video Kishore back?
look at you?
Woo, you have a baby too. Congratulations.
I have a baby as well. I just had a computer baby just now, live on stream. I have my 3080. It weighs just a couple pounds, the video card, but the whole thing
12
itself,
inches, right? Yeah.
like weighs in at a beefy like 30 pounds. It feels like
That's adorable.
It's very healthy. Liquid cooling, lots of memory. Actually, like one of my favorite things is it has like a magnetic flap on top for the airflow to clean off the dust. Oh, I'm very excited.
Couldn't be happier for you, Kishore.
Oh,
Congratulations
wow.
to the
Yeah.
whole family.
Yeah, congratulations all around. Thank you so much. I'm going to be having a cigar here in a moment.
I have expected for you to have already had Windows installed and to be streaming and recording video from that computer, but I'm impressed that you unboxed the whole thing off camera.
I'll be honest. I haven't like hugged another human outside of my family in 8 months, but I almost hugged the UPS driver here just now. This is gonna be awesome. I'm really excited. I know we're just joking around, but
What's the first game you're going to play on it?
wow, I'm taking suggestions. What do you think?
Half-Life Alex.
I was
Well,
thinking just going Squadrons because I was just gonna go flat.
Great,
With some
do that.
locked at 60 FPS. You're not going to really tax that machine for that.
Look, there isn't much that's going to really tax the machine out the gate. Like I have a i9 in here with a 10900, so it's
Wow.
like it has a little compute power too.
Flight Simulator, MS Flight
Oh
Simulator.
yeah, that's the right answer.
That's it.
I gotta go
That's
on
the
Flight
one.
Simulator. That's the
Yeah.
right answer.
You're going to be bored of that in 5 minutes and then go play Half-Life Alex.
No, I'm just gonna do like the Zelda Breath of the Wild thing. You just like go out to your beautiful vista, you like put on some chill beats as you fly around, and then you like never play the game again. It'll be cool.
Well, congratulations. I'm very envious of your 3080 and your new setup. And yeah, the PC looks great. And it arrived before Halloween. You were afraid that it was going to arrive as people were trick-or-treating, but you'll have a couple days. You'll have 2 days to set it up and play some games. And you can finally play games with us. There are no more excuses, Kishore, about your computer being lacking. Now you got to get a VR headset plugged in there. Cyberpunk is delayed. I wanted to throw that in. We're not even
Again?
at our first. Yeah, it's late till December now. Yeah, that was going to be my like.
It's
pickup.
only
You
a
had
month
your-
this time.
That's not much.
Like, let them get it right. Like, it wasn't like a 6-month delay or something like that.
And the last thing I want to mention off the top in our preamble, it's a long preamble this week, so much to catch up on, is Jeremy. We're going to get this VR talk out of the way, but this past week, your son and I have been playing a lot of Population 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is the new game from Oculus Studios, the first game they've ever cross-published on Steam, by the way. That is a battle royale.
I don't think it is an Oculus Studios game. It's. I think Oculus probably provided some funding, but it's big box VR, and I don't think there is an. Is there an Oculus Studios logo when you load it up? Even?
Well, I remember reading on Reddit that Mike Doran, I think he produced the game. He's one of their lead producers. He said that it was his idea to put it on Steam as well, and this would be the first one to do that.
Ahead of Medal of Honor.
Well, yeah. And I think you might be right, but that was my recollection, is that it was funded by Oculus and it's published on Steam. And it's because it's a multiplayer game and they want to get as many people in it as possible, which I think was a smart move.
Well, the development of the game was interesting because it was shown at like a GDC over 2 years ago. And you can actually find YouTube videos of what Population 1 looked like in its first iteration. And it looked much more like a desktop VR game in terms of the graphics, in terms of the lighting. It was always going to be this multiplayer Fortnite for VR battle royale style game. But I think when Oculus came in and they said, "Can you port this to Quest?" That was when the game had to be revamped. And now it's obviously out for Quest 2, but it works for Quest 1. And so there's a lot of fear in the community and VR fans of like what had to be scaled back in terms of the visuals or the gameplay to get this compatible and cross play compatible with mobile headsets, as well as people playing on an Index or on a Rift S on the desktop side. And it's an expensive game. When I did a preview of it, I got early access to play in the beta. They announced that it was $30, and a lot of people were very resistant to that because they were also going to make this a game as a service in terms of events and also skins that you can buy with microtransactions. And so we talked about this before, and the thing that is, after it came out on the 22nd, you see that it has like a 9.0 rating on Steam. And they did announce that there would be cross-buy compatibility. So you buy it on mobile, you get it on Oculus desktop as well if you have the desktop side. But people are loving it, and we're loving it. We're playing it almost every night.
I think I was wrong. I think you were right. Like this is, I think I was confusing this with Medal of Honor, which you said, which probably is Oculus Studios and also going to be on Steam. Anyway, I think this game's freaking phenomenal. Like, we played a heck of a lot of Rec Royale, which was the Rec Rooms, battle royale game, and I mean that was a fun game. But this is a different story entirely. Like, I'm really impressed by what they've done with draw distance and leveling the playing field across Quest and PC. I played on Index and I played on Quest 2, and I'm sure that there are differences, but it's negligible. It looks great. You can see a really long distance. The weapons are vast, and it just feels good. Like, there's this nice mix of Zelda-like climbing anything that you want and flying, which is one of my favorite things to do in VR. Like I've always said, locomotion is my first question about any VR game. And this one has locomotion. It has fantastic locomotion. First of all, free locomotion on the ground with lots of comfort settings. There's not a teleportation, but there are lots of vignette options for smoothing and snap turning. But then climbing is just like, the climb or climby. And then flying, you put your arms out and you glide and you tilt your arms to change your direction in the air, and you pull your arms in to free fall. And then if you want to throw your parachute out again, you put your arms back out. Ton of fun just walking around this world. If anything, like, some of the guns are maybe a little bit, hard to learn. I know certainly the sniper rifle I am no good at. I think a lot of people are building like PVC stocks in order to put their controllers in it and give them more stability, which is probably a good idea for this kind of game. But just great game out of the gate. I look forward to them changing it up so that you don't have to play in 3s. You can play in 2s or solo. But beyond that, congratulations to the team. They've done a great job.
It's one of those that if you have 2 other friends, it really feels good if you can play with friends. The communication, the marking on the map, and they have all these tools built in to help you play with randoms and bringers. But every server that we've been in, has been full, 18 players, and it never takes longer than 30 seconds to find a match and do the matchmaking. And people are getting really good. You're finding a lot of this interesting strategy evolve. The map, we feel like even after a week of every night of playing it, we still haven't. There are parts of the map we haven't had battles in yet because of the way the perimeter closes. But I'm wondering, will the map get stale? Right, and will we be hungry for more variety in the weapons or variety in the type of combat encounters? Because right now, these little 10 to 15 minute sessions are really satisfactory, and they put in a really great spectator mode. So if you die, you can ghost around. But people, like in other battle royale games, if you're out, then most people just quit back to the menu and try to jump back in. So it's really nice for that quick hit. And we've had some good success. Your son's excellent at this game, and I think there's enough of a community to hopefully keep it going and keep it strong.
Yep.
I imagine like the build exploits of this game, like that sort of Fortnite level building aspect hasn't even been fully explored. and that seems like before you get to a new map, there's going to be a lot more exploration of what that is. And have either of you done what was in the trailer, where you like jump off the side of the building and like catch a ladder before you get to the ground? Like some crazy moves like that.
Well,
We've
I've
done
certainly
things, yeah.
fallen and grabbed something in order to keep myself from hitting the ground, because you do take fall damage if you fall from too high up. But it's easy just to throw your arms out if you need to.
It's also with I've been wondering, is 18 players enough? Do I feel like I want more? And part of me feels like yes, because there's a great satisfaction to knowing if you were, first, second, or third place, or first place team out of 6 teams. It'd be even better if you're first place team out of like 12 teams. But we're rarely fighting more than 2 teams at once. It's mostly 3-on-3, these encounters. And when you have 9 people, 3 teams in like a skirmish, it gets really hectic to a point where I don't feel like the game would benefit from having too many people in one place at once.
I mean, this game is really pushing the technology, given that it has to run on Quest 1. I mean, to ask for more players in there, that's a lot, man. I mean, I think this is the same number as Rec Royale, isn't it? The same
It is,
number cap?
but Rec Royale is desktop only. It's not on mobile.
Exactly. And they're going to bring it to Quest 2, but they couldn't even get it working on Quest 1. And this compared to, this game compared to Rec Royale, much more complicated, a lot more to it, from the player models to the map to the weapons. I mean, and the complexity of all that. So, I mean, it definitely, they've made a technical accomplishment here, and I'm not anxious to see them try to push that any further. I just want to see different variations in the type, number of players that can play. It'd be interesting to see them mix up the level geometry a bit, move things around. I mean, I don't expect Fortnite level, world events, because they just don't have the revenue and player base for that. But whatever they can do, great. And what I'm looking for is like engagement with the community. I'm not sure where Big Box is doing that right now. I'm sure they have their hands full fixing bugs from this massive success that they have and getting the servers to, stability to be spot on. But where are they talking about what's coming up next? Where are they taking feedback? Are they in a Reddit channel? Are they on Twitter? Where's that happening? I want to know, because I want to subscribe to that channel. Let me know if you know.
I'm pretty sure they have a Discord that you can jump on too.
Oh, I do not do Discord. It's just it's too much. Discord is overwhelming.
It's not that bad. Just get over that hump of installing it and keeping it on the background.
I know I have it, and it's in the background, but I have 10 channels and 1,000 messages. I don't know how
notifications. Turn off notifications.
Right.
Pop in when you want to. It's like having tabs in a web browser. Just think of it that way. All right. There goes our lengthy preamble. We're going to skip our top story. Our top story is Kishore getting his new baby. That's what I've decided. Of all the things you talked about at the top, congratulations, Kishore. Well done. So let's move on to pop culture. One of the most disappointing things about no out in the world Halloween this week and this year and no conventions is I'm missing all the great Mandalorian cosplay. This was going to be the year where everyone was going to do Baby Yoda cosplays, Mando cosplays, IG-11 cosplays, but we don't have that. And it's already season 2 of The Mandalorian coming out this weekend. I know we mentioned it briefly last week with the new trailer, which I still haven't yet to watch, but very excited.
Yeah, I'm doing a season 1 rewatch.
Wow.
To support it. Come on, we got to get excited. This is the most hype I've been about a series so far during the pandemic. So let's go. And it's like perfect timing, because like all this like swirl of like election news nonstop, I feel like it's provided this like escape like right at the perfect time.
Yeah, I didn't know about their technology, their amazing screen technology that they use to shoot this show, where they have a television screen like as big as a backdrop, for the actors to act against. And I'll be watching for that now. Like that's the one thing I might be taken out of the show a little bit of the fiction, just because I'm aware of that now, and I want to see if I can see where it is.
You think you'll be able to notice? I bet if you rewatch season 1, there are shots where you won't be able to notice. You think they were on location.
Really?
And certainly, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, I don't want to spoil and give too many details, but there are like sunsets where there's an episode. Oh God, Ming Na's in an episode, and there's a sunset where in her scene, and that looks so convincing. It doesn't look like a green screen. Like there's sometimes you can tell when you watch like a Lord of the Rings, you watch from a heavily green screen set, or even like a modern film like Justice League or something. But compositing is so good these days. Even the mix of like green screen sets with locations, like that Netflix has that show, The Haunting of Bly Manor, I want to say. It's a follow-up to Haunting of Hill House. Well, basically, it's the house this brick house that they have is like the main central character. But this sequel follow like over dozens or hundreds of years. That whole house is a green screen house. Like they filmed on location where there is a house, but if you look at behind the scenes photos, it's literally plastered with green covering, and then they CG'd in a house, and you can not tell.
But you're talking about chroma keying. Don't you actually see the LED panels like on film? Or
yeah, I haven't noticed them on rewatch yet, and I think it's partially because of how well the actors are lit in these scenes that it doesn't pull you out. It just looks so intensely natural. And then I would say the other thing is a lot of those background areas that you're talking about have some soft blur applied to them in some way. So with it being out of focus, I'm not sure that, we have that kind of resolution that we'd be able to tell anyways.
Yes.
It's actually more the telltale sign is less of what the image is or what the background is that they're trying to replicate, whether it's inside of a tunnel, or a snowscape or something, but it's how they shoot it, because you can't go wide. Right. If you go super wide, then it's a traditional composite where you maybe like have most of the frame is green screen. You have a small insert that's the live action. It's mostly going to be these long telephoto tight shots where you have mid shots of two people talking, and then you have some real physical elements in the foreground. There's a hangar in one of the scenes. It's a Bill Burr episode. And that hangar, they talk specifically in the making of The Mandalorian where they wanted to combine and make sure foreground elements, these crates and things they were picking up and handling, were all tactile things that were lit by studio lights. So it's going to be, traditional studio. It's not like these LED panels are lighting the entire room. It's just the background that has natural illumination, of blinking whatever they have on, the lights and the starscape. But the foreground and even the midground is, the bottom half of a ship they built and put in the volume. But then you have, of course, the game rendered, Unreal rendered parallax effect backgrounds that are synchronized with the camera movement. So it's in the way they're shot sometimes, I think, is more revealing of how, of when it's using the volume. Yeah. Kishore, you complained weeks ago about so many streaming services. We're talking about Disney Plus for Mando. Apple TV had never hooked me until the news this week, and also Ted Lasso. So let's hop with news first. Jon Stewart's coming to Apple TV. Since leaving Daily Show in 2015, he's going to have a weekly hour-long show. He's back in the game, tackling single topics, kind of like Hassan Minaj's show, maybe a little like John Oliver's show, except John Oliver's is half an hour, and he only has like a 15-minute segment. That's about single topic main story for that week. But I'm excited to hear Jon Stewart's perspective on things and the kind of analysis that he can do in breaking down topics. So that's going to be on Apple TV coming, I think, is that next year? Or have they already started filming?
Yeah, it's next year.
Next year.
I think it's weird timing. Like you would think like everyone's like, where's Jon Stewart now?
Yep.
And so I wonder if that's going to make the launch a little awkward. But it could also do the reverse, take all the pressure off the launch.
Yeah, and who knows what the world's going to look like next year, right? And what topics they're going to tackle. But Ted Lasso is the other show. I don't know if either of you are watching it.
Nope.
It might be my favorite show this year, guys. It's so good. You watch it. There's swears in it. There are swears. There's allusions to naughtiness, to sex. So it may not necessarily be for kids, but it is a show that the whole family can watch. And you don't have to be into soccer, into football to watch it. But
What's it about? I don't know anything about it.
It's Jason Sudeikis. You know that, right?
Yes, Jason Sudeikis from SNL.
I didn't, but I'm looking at images now.
And it's a character that he created for like a web series, I want to say for like NBC years ago, about a college football coach that made whose success he had like a viral video because of like his dancing in the locker room or something. But the show is about this college American football coach going over to London or to the UK to coach a English football team.
Okay.
In their Premier League. So it's about, I don't want to give too much away, but it's about the culture clash of him settling into living in the UK, and but his personality is pure optimism. He has a naivete to him that's a little bit like Michael Scott, but he's competent, so it's not like a frustrating show to watch like The Office and some of the idiotic things that Michael Scott did.
Yeah.
But it's I don't want to say it's a hopeful show, but it's a not cynical show. None of the characters are purely cynical. It's a very joyful show to watch.
Great.
Which is incredibly refreshing in terms of television. It's not dark. It's like people aren't backstabbing each other. There aren't like dark turns. It's about just how someone who is optimistic and good can succeed in this predicament he's in.
So one of the co-executive producers is Bill Lawrence, who did Spin City and Scrubs. And so I've heard the main character being referenced to JD from Scrubs, is similar kind of optimistic, goes through trials and tribulations, but generally has a positive outlook on life.
Yeah.
Did you watch the morning show yet?
Didn't watch the morning show.
I'm just saying.
That's a show that's pure cynicism. That's maybe too dark of a show for me to watch.
You're just saying that Apple TV Plus hadn't hooked you yet, and you didn't watch the best show on it. So I'm just saying that is there. It was the best reviewed show on the network. So I'm just saying, try it if you want. Yeah, it's maybe worse than Ted Lasso. I don't know, but you can give it a shot.
And these are half-hour episodes from Ted Lasso. There are only 10 episodes. We're not even binging it. We're savoring it. We're not even done with the season yet. We just watched episode 8. So we're watching one every night. And over the past week, it's been the thing I've been looking forward to every night is watching Ted Lasso. Netflix has announced that Assassin's Creed is their next, not only TV show, but their big multimedia franchise. It's going to be a thing that they're trying to put that universe on screen in every way possible. Maybe Assassin's Creed universe movies on Netflix. They've announced a TV show, but it's a big partnership, of course, with Ubisoft, film and television. And I don't know if is anyone looking forward? Is anyone like hungry for Assassin's Creed live action after that film?
Yeah, I was going to say Netflix has earned some benefit of the doubt after The Witcher, which I thought was going to be a train wreck and turned out to be great. But I saw the Assassin's Creed film. It was not good.
It was not good.
It was not good. And they were, manufacturing story left and right to make it make sense. So I have no idea how it could work. I think a series could work better than a film. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many different eras. Every game is of a different era. So it's a shared universe out of the box that they have with a fan base. But yeah, it's so action driven and like, yeah, as an adaptation,
doesn't actually have character development. So I just don't know how it's going to work.
Yeah, I think a lot depends on the showrunners and their approach to storytelling for this. They could do a lot of non-linear stuff because of the way the game universe works with all being a flashback and the Animus design and that kind of stuff. We didn't talk about this last week, but there's a new trailer for the upcoming Disney Animation Studios film, Raya and the Last Dragon.
Looks freaking great.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you not
I still
watched
haven't
it?
seen it? I have not watched it yet.
Oh, it's good. It's good. I mean, it's like adventure, cute, strong female leads, fantastic. You know, from the studio that brought you Moana. It's like clear. It's that spirit, and it looks great. I can't wait. I'm sure that my whole family will watch it. I assume here at home in the living room.
You think it'll be a Disney Plus premiere? $30?
I would not surprise me in the least.
Yeah, well,
But it's Disney Studios. You know, Pixar has announced that their next film
Soul.
is going to be on Disney Plus. So we'll see.
yeah. It's so unfortunate. These movies, it's like following that documentary for the making of Frozen 2, they take years and years to make, and the expectation, you can't, fund a film and have full-time artists, hundreds of them working on it for years without the expectation that it's got to gross hundreds of millions of dollars. And in a case of a Disney Animation Studios film, sometimes $1 billion. And they just can't reconcile that cost with subscribers, even though Disney said they're going to be moving to the streaming model being the direct-to-consumer model being much bigger part of their business because of the lockdown, even though they said was where they were going eventually. It's really, it's really sad.
The trailer
especially
does
for
say
the
in
parks.
theaters. It does say in theaters March 2021.
Oh,
We'll see.
I'm skeptical. Ghostbusters
You
got
should be
pushed back to the
skeptical.
summer. Yeah, so March seems. Fall. I think it's the earliest we could see this. Yeah, hitting theaters if it's going to be a theatrical release. And then last bit of pop culture, we have a Billy Mitchell update.
Ooh.
The high score case for Donkey Kong will move forward to trial. Why?
What are you talking about? Trial.
Oh, this is the defamation case.
Is this what our legal system is best used for? Settling?
No, the
this
answer is clearly
nonsense?
no. Yeah.
So it's not even the case of whether he got the score or not, which is obviously not a legal case, but the defamation from them saying that he did not accurately get that record, that he used like some ROM or some, whatever his cheat was.
Look, dude, I mean, if we're going to talk about like what the legal system is going to be used for, let's get rid of the patent trolls before we get rid of Billy Mitchell, at least. Like I back this up. I would like to see this guy have his day in court. His entire reputation relies on this.
Yeah, but when we say that, we say it as a phrase, not actually court. Like we want, like that, like we
His
say
day
it as
in
like
nerd court. His day
yeah,
on.
we want to have like a YouTube show about it where they argue, but not an actual court case.
Oh, I would prefer a YouTube show where they argue. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, make it happen. YouTubers, nerd court, get Billy Mitchell on, and then combine it with the hot sauce. Combine it with hot ones. Right? You can roll right in.
This is great.
Hot ones, Billy Mitchell. Billy Mitchell, your hot sauce, not so hot. Not hot decisively. I think he just wants it. He just wants to be in the news. I think that's it. And we're talking about him, so he's winning here. Okay. All right. We're done with pop culture. Let's move on. Let's go to technology. Here we go. Just a few things here. I know, Kishore, you got your 3080, and 3080s are still in very short supply. NVIDIA has said they expect that to be basically out of stock because of the massive demand through end of the year. But maybe the 3070 might be more in your market, or what AMD has up its sleeve. So reviews of the 3070, which launches on the 29th. So by the time you listen to this, they will probably be on online stores. $500 card, and essentially the reviews say, for $500, you're getting the performance of a 2080 Ti, but also a much smaller form factor and more power efficient and better ray tracing. So 3070 Founders Edition, something you can pick up $500 if you don't want to spend the extra $300, I want to say, for the 3080. But there's stiff competition on the AMD side because
there's stiff competition from the scalpers. Like when you say I'll be able to pick one up, do you mean that, or do you mean they'll be for sale?
They'll be for sale.
Yeah.
And hope is that the 3070 will be much more available than the 3080.
Oh, have they announced higher numbers for that production numbers?
They haven't, but it's not the highest end.
Right.
But it's and their yields, I assume, must be better because they're not pushing it as far in terms of how they bend those chips. And there's going to be competition on the AMD side too. So because of the announcement of on the AMD side, their new RX 6800 XT and the 5800 and 5900 XTs, there's going to be a lot of there's a lot of options for people who are upgrading and building new PCs this holiday. So on the Radeon side, the 6800 XT will be $650, which undercuts the 3080 pricing, and it's going to take on the 3080 in terms of performance. We don't know what those actual numbers, the benchmarks will be, but 3080 is $700. I can't believe $700 blows my mind. That's no wonder it's sold out everywhere. So $50 cheaper than a 3080. And they also announced a cheaper $580 RX 6800 and then also a 6800 XT. And that's going to be available November 18th.
I won't settle for anything less than a 3080 because Kishore has a 3080 and I can't do that. He'll have like 5 more frames than me.
I don't know. What I've heard from Will is that the 3080 is overkill at this point. For current gen games. So I'm not totally convinced yet. Give me 2 hours and when you see exclamation points in my Twitter feed, that'll be a signal that I'm singing a different tune. But I do think it's probably overkill, but I purchased it with the idea that, slowly, games are going to catch up to the performance. So like this gives me like a 3-year buffer. I think I wouldn't settle for the 3070 either, given the difference in performance that I've seen for that amount of dollars. Like the 3070 doesn't feel as future proof as the 3080 based on the benchmarks I've seen. Now, I haven't really read into the new AMD pieces, but the one thing that it's still hanging in the back of my head is I thought AMD announced some of the Ryzen chips were going to be delayed out to 2022 that are going to be tuned to work really well with these cards.
Yeah, I'm on the CPU side.
Yeah. I mean, so you do want even though I get that we're moving towards GPUs in terms of processing, you still want those tuned well together, and having those processors moved out. I wonder how much that curtails the value.
So when you say it's more future proof to spend the extra $200 on a 3080, I get what you're saying there, but at some point, what's going to take advantage of that? I think RTX, ray tracing it's a feature, right? It's a checkbox. Yeah, if RTX is where you think games are going to go, if you plan on playing games with RTX on, with ray tracing on, then yes, you're going to want the latest. But that's not even fully optimized yet. 2 years down the line, you're going to get an incremental bump where ray tracing, you get massive ray tracing performance. It's like when the 2080s, when the 2000 series announced, and ray tracing was one of their big standout features, it wasn't worth it to spend all the money to get the highest, to get the Titan equivalent, because 3 years later, RTX ray tracing still isn't the normal thing that you get. It's still a rare feature. So it's really going to be VR headsets and 4K gaming, or when, as Will was talking about last week, very, very high refresh rate 1080p gaming. And even at 4K 60 hertz, I don't think you're going to need more than a 3070 for today's games, because most of those are optimized and ported over anyway.
Yeah, it's only a $200 difference, I think, actually, because the 3080 is supposed to be retailing for $700.
Right.
Which $200 used to be the cost of a video card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. It's a ton of money in the context of things. But I think I was saying the same thing in the context of the i12, the 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max, that $100 difference. If you're already spending this much on this essential component, is it worth just going for the thing that is the highest of the high end on it?
I think it's actually a really great analogy, and I think for most people, the 12 you don't need to spend the extra $200 on the 12 Pro. AR the AR LiDAR camera is unproven as a feature. It may not be something you need until 2 generations from now. So I'd say and even that telephoto lens that you get on the 12 Pro.
Well, now hold on. The Pro phone has things that the regular doesn't have, like
it's the telephoto lens and the LiDAR.
The 3070 is just a slower clock speed, so you're just talking about lower resolution and maybe not as many frames, which in a lot of cases won't mean anything. Like won't make any difference to anybody.
For most people, unless you want to max out graphics on a Reverb G2, right? Unless you're rendering at 90 hertz on these really high 2160 by 2160 panels. For people with even 4K 60 hertz monitors, a 3070 is going to be fine for that.
It's totally going to be fine. Don't get me wrong. Like I am being pedantic here because I'm excited to turn on my computer.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah, I think it's comparing the phones to GPUs, I think the phones are overpriced, absolutely. And if you're talking about upgrades that you buy once every, let's say, reasonably once every 4 years, I think $800 on a phone will get you that 4 years, and you can spend that $200 elsewhere. And in the same vein, that $200 on the PC building side, I would spend on extra storage. I would get a faster, a higher capacity NVMe M.2 drive and make use of that today than the extra frames that and power consumption that having the extra graphics card needs.
I disagree, because I think those SSDs are going to come down in price going into next year. You've already seen a downtick in price, so I would wait on those. There is no signs GPUs are going to come down in price. In fact, they might just go the other way.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Tesla has announced their full self-driving rolling out.
Dude, no, but in beta, in alpha, probably, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yes. Very limited.
But it's real.
Do either of you know anybody who has it?
Nope.
Okay.
And there are pictures of you can find on YouTube of the new UI, and of course you'll need the new hardware if you got one of the first Model 3s. Price goes up. They want people to adopt this right now. My take on it: so unproven. I don't think it's worth it. If it is going to be a world-changing thing, it's expensive.
You mean like right now?
Yeah, right now.
Well,
yeah,
it's a beta thing. Like, what do you mean?
But they're forcing people to they're encouraging people who have the car to spend the money now because the price is going to go up. That's their whole thing, right? If you don't pay for the upgrade now, it's going to be thousands of dollars more expensive for you. If you want to get it later, and obviously don't fall into that trap. Don't give them money now on a promise for something that's, yes, it might be in beta and there may be people driving with it, so it's not completely vaporware, but in my mind, it's still unproven technology, and its usefulness in day-to-day driving, I think is something I'm still very skeptical about.
I'm with you on. I guess I'm with you on it, but it is a gamble. I mean, you are. Now, at this point, you're paying $10,000 for the feature. A week ago, you could have paid $8,000. So that is $2,000 you could still have.
That's a lot of GTXs. That's a lot of iPhones.
Yeah. Wait, the gamble you're talking about, you can call it a gamble. I call it an interest-free loan to Tesla.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm with Norm here. The regulation is going to dictate the implementation of this stuff. So even if it's great, you may not be able to use it where you live anyways. So I think that's why you wait.
I'm with you too. I'm with you. Absolutely. And people who are buying Teslas and thinking about this feature, they probably aren't, sweating the $2,000. I'm just guessing. But let's talk about the feature that is actually available now to those limited number of users. Okay. Cause it is further along than I anticipated. Are there videos out there of it failing? Cause I've actually only watched videos of it succeeding. I
think that the people who are bought in, the cognitive dissonance will prevent them from sharing those videos.
Okay, so you agree then? Like they're not prevalent, at least. Yeah. So what I've seen is the car in regular city driving or suburban driving, it changes lanes to avoid cars, to go around things. It comes to stop signs. It does stoplights. It checks corners. It moves into traffic all autonomously. It sees the curb on the side of the road without any markings. And the as you were saying, the interface, the UI for it, almost looks like a Tron meets Night Driver kind of aesthetic. It's like a dot map of the world. It's way beyond the like sprite-based icons that I've seen in your car, Norm, in your Model 3. It really is like a 3D dot rendering of your surroundings with a lot more information on it.
Even though it's not using LiDAR, there's still 100% computer vision base, array of cameras, then stereo, SLAM, essentially.
It does have radar, though, does it not?
It does do radar in terms of like bouncing under the cars to detect the objects in front, but not like, I don't think that's how they detect curbs and signs. I can see it being something that would be a convenience if you live in the suburbs, if you live in the sprawl, if there are big wide roads where you need to get to your cul-de-sac from the freeway, that last mile from freeway to cul-de-sac, I could see that being a convenience. I can't imagine it being effective in a dense city environment. Not even talk about New York, but just like in the avenues out here in San Francisco, right? Or just downtown San Francisco. I can't imagine this being something that's useful. So
you mean
for me,
safe?
Or safe or effective. Yeah. Or something that I think it's going to throw up the error message and force you to drive. And so it's not going to change behavior, I think. Right, it's not Minority Report where they're going to be cars just spinning off the freeway, getting you to your last mile. Definitely not in the city, and maybe down over in South Bay, maybe over in the East Bay where the streets are a little wider and there are a few more of those suburbs outside the city, and certainly in a lot of the country. This is something that makes sense for folks who have that car, but yeah, not for me.
All right. So if you get the text from Norm that says, "Meet me in a field, beware."
I mean, this is cool technology. I mean, whether or not it's safe, whether or not it should be in people's hands, that is a completely different story. But watching this thing in action, it's awesome. Like I'm thrilled that we are at this point, because I want nothing more than in 6 years when my 10-year-old, is of age to drive, that I don't have to worry about it. Like I can just have the car take her places and it's safer than her being able to do it on her own. And when my parents get old enough where they shouldn't be driving, they can do the same thing.
And eventually, I'm confident we will get there, right? It's going to happen. We're choosing, like, getting your driver's license, as Will said, is going to be optional. It's not going to be like it's not going to be something that no one has, but it's going to be something that people won't need to have. And people can, back in the before times with rideshare services, people didn't, could get around cities without having to have a driver's license or own a car. And that makes a lot of sense. And it could, save a lot of money and help with emissions and stuff. But in this intermediate period, the trust I have in those cars, even like the ones that use LiDAR-based technologies and the cruise ones, right? Or the Waymo cars that they're running in Arizona as actual taxi services. Waymo, at least when you see it, you recognize that as a self-driving car. I'm going to maybe behave differently. Maybe I'm going to try to accommodate it knowing its limitations. But with Teslas, like when I see other cars on the freeway, and my assumption is maybe that person has self-driving on or some of the autopilot on, and I'm going to drive differently myself when I'm around that car, because I know how it can be fooled, where it's kind of not literal blind spots, or where it's kind of behavioral blind spots are.
Yeah, but everyone else doesn't have that knowledge.
Exactly. And that's where I feel like there should be some type of indication when those cars are in full self-driving mode, where people can recognize, okay, that car is driving itself. Can I trust the driver to be actually still having their hands on the wheel, right? Because it's sometimes people don't have their hands on the wheel when they have the autopilot on.
The legality of Tesla enabling this for any users? I'm surprised that that's even possible. Like, how are they allowed to do that by regulations?
See, now that's an issue that should go to a court instead of Billy freaking Mitchell.
We have listeners who work for these companies and would love to hear their thoughts. So I think there are like tiers of regulation, and I think there is exception in California for this to operate. to grant people those permissions to have full self-driving. Yeah. Again, we'll have to wait and see. All right. Before we move on to our next segment, I want to let you know this week's episode of This Is Only a Test is made possible with support from Storyblocks. Now, more than ever, storytellers and content creators, us included, are challenged with producing more video content at a higher quality and distributing them on more platforms than ever before. Storyblocks makes it easy for creators to keep up with the growing demands of modern video content, so you can bring all your stories to life and stop sacrificing your vision due to time, budget, or resources. Storyblocks is the world's best stock media service, offering video, audio, and images with the most affordable subscription plans and tools on the market. Their ever-growing library has over 1 million high-quality stock assets, including 4K footage, After Effects, and Premiere Pro templates. The templates are so useful. And music, images, sound effects, and more. And their assets are royalty-free, so you can use your content anywhere for commercial and personal use. With Storyblocks' unlimited all-access plan, you get unlimited downloads of everything in their library, so you can try out multiple options and find the perfect fit for whatever it is you're making. And even if your subscription ends, everything you've downloaded already is yours to keep and use. Oh, royalty-free music is so important, and it really adds to the flavor of audio. We use it all the time. Explore their library and subscribe today at storyblocks.com/onlyattest. Again, that's storyblocks.com/onlyattest. And now we're going to go to, we have some science. Yeah, let's play the science music.
Now it's time for a moment of science. So last week I mentioned that there was this NASA press conference that was coming up, and I was sure that it was going to be water or water ice being announced, being found on the moon. And I was mostly right. It was not water ice, but they did find water on the moon, which is not surprising in of itself. But when you dig into the details, they are quite surprising. So what they did is they used the SOFIA telescope, which is mounted to a 747. It uses infrared detection. The reason it's mounted to a 747 is it can fly at like 60, 70,000 feet. So it's above most of the water in our atmosphere. And water, when it absorbs sunlight, tends to emit that light radiation in the infrared spectrum. So you can actually use the spectral analysis by pointing these telescope in certain areas to look for signatures of water being in specific places. Now, historically, when we found water in places like the moon, we found not true water, but hydroxyl molecules, the OH of the H2O. And there's signatures for that. In this case, we actually found signature of water, of H2O on the moon, but it was not in ice form. And the reason is we found it in these two specific locations. They looked in a polar location and an equatorial location, and both locations were in sunlight. So this is wild because the moon essentially has no atmosphere, and the sunlight, when it hits the moon's surface, you would think it would vaporize any water that it comes in contact with, and it would just be gone. So how are we seeing water signature in these sunlit areas? And the theory is, and this is just a hypothesis right now, is that the water is actually trapped below the surface in what they're sort of guessing are the pores of glass that exists on the surface, probably formed when many meteorites hit the surface of the moon. And that heat essentially formed glass. And in the pores of that glass, there are molecules of water. And when I say molecules, I mean like individual molecules of water. They estimated the concentration, the number of these molecules, to be 100 to 400 million parts per million, which is a lot. So if you take like a cubic meter of moon regolith and extracted all the water, that would be like almost like 10 ounces of water. So it's like a ton of water, but you can't do that the way it is because the water is not actually bound together. That would be water ice. This water is actually individual molecules. There's just like a ton of it. They don't exactly know, but the current hypothesis is that it's trapped in this sort of these glass pockets. That's all super, super cool. The second half of the press conference where they kind of lost me is they started to really make indications that the Artemis mission, which is the mission that NASA announced to take us back to the moon, this crew would be able to extract water from these pockets, and all the scientists I know were like, I don't know, not based on these findings, because it's not like a glob of ice is down there. It's individual molecules. So how you actually get them out of this is sort of unknown. So that's where it got into a little science fiction for me. But in and of itself, the discovery is super cool. And there's a lot more testing to be done, because that hypothesis that the water molecules are trapped in glass is literally that. It's just a hypothesis. And there has to be a lot more work done to actually confirm whether that's true or not. And there are a number of skeptics on the other side of that equation.
Sounds like you included.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know. This is not my area of expertise, so I'm sort of deferring to experts. So we'll see. One other story this week, and that's there was a paper that came out from the NYU Department of Primatology that looked at the susceptibility of COVID-19 in other primates. So SARS-CoV-2, the virus that leads to the COVID-19 disease, it attacks the ACE2 receptor to come into our cells. Now, this receptor is common in other primates beyond humans. It exists in monkeys and apes. And so the theory is like, are those creatures actually susceptible to get COVID? Because if they have similar receptors, couldn't the virus actually bind to it? And what they did is they did like a really deep analysis of ACE2 prevalence in these, looking at their genetic structures and how that encoding gives rise to that receptor. And they found that there is a class of primates called platyrrhines, which are essentially the monkeys that exist in the Americas. They're kind of a newer form of monkey, evolutionarily speaking, versus the catarrhines, which are the ones that we associate to being in like Asia and India. The catarrhines are an older evolutionary species. They're more susceptible based on the ACE2 prevalence. So they modeled like what it would look like for SARS-CoV-2 to attack this, and they found that, those primates should be able to get, based on the modeling, should be able to get COVID-19, and are encouraging a lot of groups, especially conservation groups, to isolate these primates from humans during this time, because it could, if they end up having similar effects of the disease as we do symptomatically, which we obviously don't know at this point, it could lead to devastating consequences. So it's really interesting to see. This disease that we're ravaging now is not just hitting us. We've heard stories about cats and dogs being carriers, but we rarely talk about it in the context of actually developing the disease. And here we are. It's a really interesting paper. I'll put a link in the YouTube comments.
All right. Encouraging as always. Stay safe, folks. That's what.
Hey, I finally gave you a story where it's like not humans getting COVID-19.
Yeah, that's true.
Just
that's
monkeys.
True.
Like I would say that's different.
And hopefully, both of you have voted or made your voting plans, safe voting plans for the coming week.
I just want to say, like, I had this incredibly positive experience voting in San Francisco. We have drive-through drop-off balloting. So I took my mail-in ballot and I drove up to Civic Center where City Hall is. And I didn't even have to get out of my car. It was awesome. I hope they keep a form of it going forward.
Was there a person there?
Yeah. So there's a person that comes up to your window. You hand them your ballot. They hold it over their head as they walk over to the ballot drop box, and they intentionally show you them putting it in. It's almost like a magician showing you the whole way.
Yeah.
Right. But it's to establish provenance that this is actually going in the ballot box. It was great. I really appreciated it, and I was in and out in 45 seconds.
That's great. I've got my mail-in ballot. I'm going to do it this weekend.
Oh, speaking of magicians, I don't think we mentioned this last week, but in and of itself, the Derek Delgadio show that ran in New York and that we've gushed about, they were filming parts of the show and and around his performance and the preparation for it for a documentary, the movie version of it. And it finally found a distributor. It was supposed to originally premiere at Sundance this year, or South by Southwest this year. And it will premiere on January 2021 on Hulu. So once again, another streaming service. That's the one I don't have.
That's the one I do have. I will say that is the best piece of theater I've seen in the last 10 years, bar none. And Derek Delgadio said he thinks it's actually better in the movie form than it was in person. I don't know if I like, that's a really high bar. And then the last thing I'll say is if you want to see it earlier, it's actually playing at a virtual film festival in November that you can buy tickets to for $12.
Ooh, I might have to do that. That's awesome. So one of those you buy the ticket, they send you a link, you have to watch it at home.
Yep.
I like it. I let's do a viewing party. I'm into it. All right. Last segment. Here we go. Play. The VR Minute. Virtual reality this week. And once again, we're out of time.
I knew it.
No.
Okay.
I'm the only one out of time. You guys should just keep going.
No. We'll go for it'll be just a couple minutes. Oh, Kishore,
You've lost him
turned
already.
off his video already. There's a little bit of controversy right now in the VR community. People who picked up the Elite head strap for the Quest 2. Lots of people. It's a significant number of people have posted pictures that their head straps have cracked. Have the bands, and I'm not sure if this is from normal wear or from when they try to remove and attach, because you do have to twist that band. I will say the two head straps I have, I obviously don't use them both at the same time, or I'm only have one installed in my headset right now. I'm using the battery one, has not cracked, so I'm not a victim yet. But there is like a whole spreadsheet that people are keeping track of, and it is dozens of people right now, which says that this could be a bigger problem than.
I think people are mistreating them until mine breaks. I have a feeling, just because, first of all, the default strap isn't even rigid. People are used to yanking that thing in every direction. But the one that people might be more used to is the Pro Audio strap from the Vive or the original Rift, which has an elastic to it. So that when you take it off, you can yank it forward, then lift it off. Whereas this strap really is rigid. And to take it off properly, you kind of have to loosen it manually. And I don't think people are used to doing that. Wouldn't surprise me if people are putting it on, taking it off without, being as ginger as possible.
That's regardless, right? Like they made a product and they should have tested it. And, people are going to put the headset on and take it off how they, there's gonna be different ways people do that, and it should hold up to that type of pressure. It shouldn't be something.
There's no reason
cracks.
for this to be happening. You're right. But I don't think if you use it properly, that you're going to have a problem. I mean,
but there's no instructions. There's nothing in the box that said you have to take it off a certain way, or you have to store it a certain way. There are things in the box that say, please be careful when you snap them on and don't twist the strap when you remove them from the side. But people aren't, I think, removing the rigid head strap from their headset and replacing them. It's really from normal use of how they're putting on the strap and removing it. And I can't imagine like these type of torsional forces on that.
If it happens to me, I'm going to be irate as hell. I totally agree. But now, I just feel like, they can't possibly have designed a product that is that fragile. I think that probably how many photos have you seen of people with broken touch controllers? And that's because they've smashed them into things. And I grant you that's different. They acknowledge their fault. They're wearing blinders. They couldn't possibly see their surroundings. But this, like, Oculus knows what percentage of their total sales the number of problem units actually is, and whether or not it's a real issue. And it remains to be seen. I do hope, obviously, that they see this and they revise the design, change the plastic, make it better. Great. But for me and you, I'm guessing we were not going to have a problem as long as we take it off, carefully.
I will also I think the lesson here is that if you have one, keep an eye on it. And there are ongoing threads for this to become, to bring awareness to the issue. If it becomes a real issue, I think it's fair to say we don't know how actual widespread it is compared to how many of these units they shipped. But if it's a fact that people are breaking them, and I don't think you can say no one, Oculus isn't to blame. It's, if they sold a few a $50 or $130 head strap, and after less than a month of use, right? Less than a month of use, they're cracking. I do think there is something worth keeping an eye on, at least for this. So maybe yours will break, Jeremy, and then you'll be on the side of the consumer for once.
I'm just trying to be realistic, man.
I see. I know where you're coming from. We mentioned earlier in the show, acknowledging the frame rate cap on Squadrons. As we were recording this, a patch is now live, and apparently the frame rate issue is fixed. So in VR, not locked to 60 FPS on the PC side, and so you people who noticed that's lower frame rate, that kind of stuttering image in their headset. Hopefully this will solve their problem and take advantage of a better graphics card if you have it. So there you go, Kishore. Perfect timing for you to receive your 3080. We have kind of like headset rumors or headset news a little bit. There's a Road to VR story where they spotted HTC has submitted an FCC filing for an unknown Vive headset. There are no pictures of it because of the FCC policies for not revealing new products, but it's something that's supposed to come out next year and different enough from existing headsets that it requires a new FCC filing. So hopefully something to compete with the Quest 2. I don't think the Cosmos was it. And then the same thing, there's a headset called the Deca Gear. It's a Steam VR headset that Valve has confirmed that they were working with a manufacturer or giving them advice on terms of developing. A $450, theoretically, Deca Gear 4K VR headset. I'm going to call it vaporware until I actually see prototypes and photos of this thing. Right now,
4K shared between both eyes?
I think so, yeah.
So like the Reverb.
Exactly. And then PS5s, some people have those, are starting to get those in the next couple of weeks. Early reviewers have shown pictures. It looks massive. It will be compatible with PSVR, but you'll need a camera adapter. And if you have an existing PSVR, you have to fill out a form on the Sony website, and they'll mail you a free adapter for the PS5 to use the existing camera so that you can continue using PSVR on the PS5.
With a caveat. It only works with the second generation of PSVR headsets.
Yes.
If you have the first generation, which is probably you and me, you're out of luck.
SOL, unfortunate. All right, that does it for this week's episode. We made it just in time to get to the end. We have a new outro, this one from Great Job. I still need to post instructions because our website changed, our forms went away. So for people who want to create outros and submit them, Discord's the best place. Message me on Discord, send me a SoundCloud link, or you can always email me, norman@tested.com. Hope you all have a safe Halloween. Share pictures of costumes, of the candy that your kids are going to enjoy, and vote safely as well. The next time we'll be seeing you will be after Election Day, and who knows what the world will look like then. But until then, stay safe, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And here is an outro from Great Job. The track was not found. Maybe it was removed. Oh, this is why I needed to test it ahead of time. Okay, no outro this week.
No, really?
Wait, hold on. I literally have a Google Doc where I copy and pasted all of his
Nobody
outro.
who made it this long is going to be upset about waiting for you to find one.
Okay. Here we go.
I don't know. I made it this long and I'm a little upset.
Here goes an outro, I believe also from Great Job.
Hi there, I didn't see you. Tested.
Any other bits from the Google hardware event?
Did you talk about the new Echoes? Was that last week too?
Yeah, we did.
Was that week before? Okay.
Yeah, the big surprise event.
Yeah.
The alarm clock one looks interesting.
I don't care.
Why'd you ask?
Well, the $99 redesign. The $99 redesign.
Wow. That was worth waiting for.
Yeah. Good
Well
old
done.
Will. Good old Will.
All right. See you next time. Bye.